Good evening, everybody. We'll get started. Here we go. All right, so everyone should be able to see my screen. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this PowerPoint after this week, and we're going to post it on the school website so that you have access to that as well, just in case if I'm talking a little bit too fast or if you want to go back and take a look at anything. So feel free to take notes, but it will be available and accessible for you. So welcome again. The goals for today, it's going to be mostly Google. So we'll talk about how to log on to Google. We'll talk about how Google Classroom works and how you can access that from the guardian and the parent perspective. We're going to talk about Google Meet and why is that important for this upcoming school year. And then we'll talk a little bit about something called School Tool. So School Tool is a tool that we use obviously within the school, and it is attendance tracking and grades and pretty much the baseline for how we do a lot of our admin stuff. So let's jump into this as well. Tomorrow we're going to have the same meeting but with the elementary school focus, and then on Thursday we're also going to have the same meeting but with a high school focus. So things will be slightly different from meeting to meeting. You'll have a different presenter each time, and I'll do my best kind of tell you some of those differences as we continue throughout the presentation, just in case you have a child in both the elementary school and the middle school. All right, let's get going. So one of the things that I want to talk about before we really jump into a lot of the Google specifics is something called Education Law 2D. So pretty much what it says is we want to make sure that your data and your child's data is safe and protected. So we don't sign them up for just a random service that we see online. We go through, we vet it, and we make sure that they're using that data safely. So the data could be anything from their email to their first and last name. And we want to make sure that that is used efficiently and effectively. So if you see something online that's maybe a really cool program that you think we should be using at the school, we can't just automatically jump into it. But if you send us that information, we'll go ahead and we'll vet it and we'll make sure that it's safe. And then we can go ahead and we can start using that in the classroom. Hopefully by the end of this presentation, the example question on the bottom right down here, we'll be able to answer that together. What is our remote learning plan moving forward? All right, so just move that out of the way. Here I am over here. So my name is Tom McNamee. I am both a teacher over at the middle school and the high school, but my general focus is science. So I'll do a little bit of 7th grade science, I'll do a little bit of 8th grade science, and a little bit of physics over in the high school. So if you have any children, either middle school or high school, they may have seen me around. All right, so the main focus and what we're going to be giving for every child, and both at the high school and the middle school, are Chromebooks. So Chromebook is a Google special device that allows us to...
I found these results.
Ooh. My search engine automatically heard me say Google and went for it. My apologies. So Google's a web browser, and it's the way that we access the information online. So every time that the student logs into their Chromebook, we have this program called Go Guardian. And what it does is it actively tracks what they're doing on the computer to make sure that what they're doing is safe and school appropriate. So be aware of that, know that we're also looking out for their safety just like you are. So some things that I've noticed that there's problems that we had last year. A big thing was Wi-Fi speed. So that was more on the home end, but some things that we can do that you may not have known about is if there's any type of gaming devices, so Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, anything along those lines that are really draining the Wi-Fi when they're not needed to be used. If you shut those off during the day, then the Wi-Fi is stronger throughout the house. If the student has their phone and they're not going to use their phone, they can turn off the Wi-Fi on their phone, and that makes it so that way their Chromebook or whatever computer they're using is a little bit stronger of a Wi-Fi service. Number two talks a little bit about your modem or your Wi-Fi in general. You have the capability to reach out to your cable provider or your Wi-Fi provider and ask them, hey, I have an old modem, can you please upgrade me? And if it's 3 years or older, that's pretty old when it comes to technology. I believe the current stat is every 5 years, the technology speed doubles. So you can imagine, depending on how old your modem is, how much faster it can be if you simply reach out and ask for a new one. And I believe, but don't quote me on it, I believe it's free. All right, so what's different this fall than what happened at the end of last school year? So the main difference is something that I'm sure everybody's heard before, the word synchronous. So what we're doing is we will have students log on to their computer as if they're in the traditional classroom. So what we do is I took the middle school and high school schedule and I just posted it here so that way you also have access to that. Students are going to be taught live and attendance is going to be taken. So the video software we're going to use is actually not Zoom, the one that we're using currently. It's something called Google Meet, and I'll go over that in a couple slides. So here's an example, a big screen of all the different types of software that we may be using in the future. A lot of them are Google based, and some of them are a little bit, is this in the way? Just move that out of the way. So some of these are Google based and some of these are more specific for different subject areas. For example, for science, we may use one that's specific, and for math, they may use another. But we're going to really condense all of this into a few of their basic services. So we'll talk a little bit about Google Meet, which is over here. We'll talk about Google Classroom. And in general, we'll talk about the Google Drive and how to access all of that other information that you can see on this screen. So students have access to different apps. They have access to different extensions. They can't just download anything that they want off the internet. They need to have the school permission. So again, just like what I was saying before, if you notice that there's a software or you know a software that's really good that you want your child to have on their Chromebook, or you think it's really good for all students, reach out and ask. And we'll go ahead, we'll approve it, and then we can add them over to the Chromebooks. They can't just download anything that they want. So how do I get on Google? Might be a little bit basic, but I want to start from the beginning and work our way up so that we're all on the same page. Right now, this is a Google site. This is the Google main homepage. But if you start off with Yahoo or Bing or anything along those lines, you're just going to type in google.com over in the search engine, and you're going to get to your main Google page. From here, you have a couple different options. So you're most likely familiar with this, the search bar. Up here in the upper right-hand corner is where we're really going to focus on today. So we have the option for Gmail, which is the email version of Google. Images, pretty straightforward. We're going to talk about this little box here. A lot of us like to call it the waffle. It's technically called the Google Chrome extension bar, but the waffle's easier, so we'll refer to that as we continue on. And the main thing we want to do first is this sign on button, big blue. A lot of the Google buttons are blue for the important ones, so just keep that in mind as you're looking and navigating around. So we'll go to the sign on button and we'll get this page up on the left first. You're going to come here, you're going to type in the email that you're using or the email that your child's using, and then you'll go ahead, you'll click next, and then we'll get over to the password. Now, every single student email is going to end with this @ symbol and then k12.catskillcsd.org. So every single student email is going to end with this. Now, how to tell what their email is, we have a pattern for it at Catskill. So the username, which was what we typed in first, is going to be the student's first initial, then their full last name, and then the graduation year that they will graduate high school or plan to graduate high school. And then the general ending at k12.catskillcsd.org. And you don't have to include this period, that's just to end the sentence. And then the password If they were in Catskill last year, it's whatever their last year's password was. If they're in the elementary school or if they're a brand new student, it's going to be their lunch ID number, which if you're not sure what that is, just reach out and ask and we can look it up for you and let you know that, okay? So how do I find all the Google apps that I mentioned earlier? We're gonna go over to that waffle, which was that set of 3x3 dots. So once we click on the waffle, right over here, we're going to have a whole bunch of Google services that we can go ahead and we can click on. We see Drives right in the beginning, Gmail, which I mentioned is the email version of Google, Docs, Sheets, Classroom we'll talk about today. We'll talk a little bit about Calendar, and we'll definitely talk about Meet. But there's also a whole bunch of other software that you can go ahead and you can take a look at and explore. All you'd have to do is scroll down to the bottom. So what is Google? Google is our one-stop shop. Some schools use Google, some schools use Microsoft. We've chosen to use Google, and I'm very happy with that choice personally. The way that Google works, or the way that Google Classroom works, is it allows students one spot where they can have all of the information that they need for all of their classes. And we could add links to go ahead to separate services. So really, if they know Google Classroom, they know the basics, and then they can go ahead and they could access different parts of the internet from there. So if we go into Google Classroom, which like I said was from the waffle, and then we click on Google Classroom, we get to the main page. So what we did was we created a fake student and we added some classes in here. So most likely your students are gonna have more classes like this, probably 9. Or a little bit less because they'll have a lunch and they'll have a prep, not a prep, that's for teachers, but you know what I meant. So once we're here, we have a couple different options on the page. We have a to-do list, which I'll go over in a bit. We have our calendar, which sounds exactly like it is. We have each one of the classes that the student would be in. So they'd have a science class, math class, and all of their classes listed right here. This plus button is what I want to talk about right now. This plus button is going to allow us to add on to new classes. So if we click the plus button, we get over to this screen. This is the join screen. So this join screen, really for high school and middle school students, they most likely won't be using this. This is mostly for elementary students, that there's a bunch of students coming into one class for more of announcements. It'll be for encore teachers, which is more like music and art, or general announcements, or if a student accidentally deletes one of their classes on Google Classroom, they'll have to rejoin in using the class code. There's actually a little bit of a behind the scenes thing that teachers can do to make it easier, which we're gonna push definitely during our professional development week. But what the student would do is they'd come here, they'd type in their class code, which the teacher would provide to them, and then they go ahead and they click the join button. And like I said, most students are gonna be automatically registered within their classes. So back to the main page, let's talk about this to-do list. So this is a really good one for you to know about. If you have your child go ahead and open up their Google Classroom and then go to their to-do list, you get immediate results as to what's happening right now in all of their classes, one specific page. So here's our to-do tab. So we see that there's a couple example assignments in here, and we see that it's sorted by when it's due. So I can come here and I can say, all right, well, I have an assignment that's due today. It looks like right around midnight. So I know that I need to go ahead and get that done, and it's a nice little checklist for them to keep their priorities in check. We can go ahead and this is all of the assigned ones. We have the ones that are missing, which would be big for you as a parent to know, hey, go to your missing assignments page, and then the ones that are already completed. And then I'll show you in a bit, but there'll be a couple different options within the completed tab where you can see whether it's just turned in or whether it's turned in and graded. All right, going back to the main page, I want to talk about the calendar. So clicking on this calendar button right over here, they have a breakdown, same thing as before, just from a different visual perspective. So depending on how you want to view it, depending on how the student wants to view it. This one's also nice because you can sort it by classes. So if I click this arrow right here, I'd have a list going down of all the classes. So I can see, oh, well, maybe I want to do my science assignments first. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do all my science assignments for the week. And then I click down and I do maybe another class next. Or of course you could just sort by from day to day. Let's go back over to the main page. Now we're going to talk about a specific class. So let's jump into this Catskill technology class. So here we go. This is the main page for once we dive into a specific class. So right now we have what's called the stream. All that is just like a Facebook stream, just like a Twitter stream, or any of those basic social medias. This is just going to be a list of information that's sent out to the students. So for example, we have one down here. If I can move that out of the way. Welcome to Technology Instruction. We'll be learning about Google Classroom, Google Meet, Google Extensions. That'll be helpful throughout the year. Nice, basic. It can show assignments. It can have links for resources. Depending on how the teacher sets it up, students can also create comments on the stream and pose a question and say, hey, Mr. McNamee, I'm really struggling with this assignment. Can you support me on this question? And then I'll get a notification right away and boom, I can go ahead and help that student, or I can help the whole class and I could post it to the whole class rather than just an individual. All right. One thing I want to talk about that's real important here. Now, we were up here on the stream where we can see everything. We even get a little snapshot of the due dates and what assignments are becoming due for this specific class. But if I come over here and I click on people, I have a full list of everybody that's in the class. So right now we're logged in as the middle school example student, but there's also an elementary school and high school student. Now, for an actual class, that's going to be populated with their actual friends and actual students. But what's really important about this page is this little mail symbol. So if I were to click on this mail symbol, right now as a middle school student, my teacher is Miss Loomis. So if I wanted to email Miss Loomis, this is the easiest way I can go ahead and do it. From the Google Classroom page, I can go ahead and I can just click on the email. It'll automatically open up a brand new email with automatically Mrs. Loomis's email as the to where it's going to. And I don't have to memorize people's emails. It's a piece of cake right there, right straightforward for us. So this is what's important in the people section. Going back a little bit over to the stream, I want to talk about the Classwork tab. So this is where more of the meat is going to be, all the assignments are going to be. So here we go, we see our work. Sometimes teachers will post a bunch of assignments at once. Sometimes they'll post them day by day. But here we have a couple example assignments. So what I'm able to see over here is I'm able to see each assignment. I see that they're sorted by a topic. So we see that these are our TED Ed video topics. So maybe we're doing that as a class. And I also see the quick due dates. If I were to go ahead and I were to click on one of these assignments, it's going to open up and look a little bit something like this. So here's my example assignment. So right now I have my directions over here. It's telling me when it was posted and by who. It's telling me the due date, the maximum amount of points it's going to be. Here's a little resource for me. So I would click on this and it would automatically take me to the TED Ed video that we're supposed to watch as a class. And over here, I would go ahead and I'd jump into the student information. So I'd click on this and it would go ahead and open up the document that I can edit and submit. And then as well, there's an additional section for comments. Now it says private comments. So this is just going to be between me and the teacher. So if I'm struggling and I'm embarrassed and I don't want the whole class to know, I can just go ahead to the private comments and just go right there. So if I was over here, now I'm back to the Classwork tab. I'm looking at everything for this class. If I want to come here and I click View My Work, so I'm going to click View My Work, and I can see a breakdown of all of my work as the student. So I see this assignment, I see it was assigned, and it's due on September 3rd. So I can do it right now, or I can wait and I can do it at the last minute. Probably not what I want to do. And then I see my other assignments. It looks like all of these were already past due. And I see that this one right here, it's due on the 27th, and I turned it in. That means I turned it in and it was not graded. This one right down here, due on the 26th. It says it's missing, so I did not turn it in, and the teacher marked it as missing because it's past the due date. And then this last one down here, I see that it's due today, but I have a grade for it, which means I already submitted it and the teacher already graded it. So a little bit of a breakdown of what type of feedback you're going to receive in terms of a grade. Now, what teachers also can do is they could provide direct comments, private comments to the students, also with feedback. So if somebody turns in an assignment to me and maybe it's unsatisfactory, I can return that work back to the student and I can make specific comments, either highlighting and entering them into the document, or I can just do a general, hey, please double check your work on question number 2. I think you're missing the point of ba, 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 ba. They can see those comments, they can make the adjustments, and they could resubmit it. They also get notified that I made comments and sent it back to them. One of the most common things, or one of the biggest problems I noticed, is students would log on, they would get up to this page, and all they would do is they'd click turn in. They'd never opened the document, they never did any work. All they did was click turn in. And when they click turn in and nothing's been submitted, it still looks like this. So it can be a little bit tricky for the parent checking their work. They see that things have been turned in, but they completely left them blank. So of course, me as the teacher, I'm gonna push that back out to them and say, hey, please make sure you submit your work. But from the parent side, it looks like they've completed everything. So that's a little tricky thing that sometimes students like to do, and I just really wanna make you aware of that. All right, let's dive into the assignment. So I come here as the student and I click on this assignment. So I'm within the assignment, here I am. And I have a bunch of options. This is what's called a Google Doc. So it's the same thing as Microsoft Word, except it's through Google. And it's easily shareable and it's easily editable online. So here I am, I have a couple example questions here. So how does the pressure of a container change as the volume changes? So me as the student, maybe I don't know that. Oh, well, I didn't watch the video. So I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna make sure I watch the video. Here's another link of it right here. And to answer a multiple choice question, of course, it depends on what the teacher is looking for, but the easiest thing for the student to do is just come over here and highlight all of the answer, and then just either make it bold or change the color or add a highlight, something so that way it's clear that we know what the answer is as the teacher. Now, the big thing, sometimes students will complete the whole assignment, but not turn it in. It's the same thing as them completing the assignment on their paper, but leaving it in their backpack. It's really of no use to us. So we want to make sure that they go through and they follow through actually turning in the assignment. They come here and just be careful. I mentioned earlier that mostly blue is the important stuff. This time, turn it in is actually gray. So they're going to make sure they click turn in and boom, they've successfully submitted the assignment. If your child is using paper to do the assignments, that's okay, but they need to be able to attach that into the document or into the assignment. So there's actually 2 different ways that we can go ahead and we can do that. So how to take a picture using Google Doc. What they'll do is they'll come here, which is the top of this, right up here. So they'll click insert, they'll go to image, and then they have a couple different options. So they can upload from their computer, search through the web. That's not gonna be useful because they're submitting an original assignment. Maybe they added it to their drive, or we can just take a picture with the camera. So that's actually using this forward-facing camera. They could also take a picture with their phone and add it to their drive if they know how to do that. Another way to go about doing it, from this original page that we were on where it showed the assignment, instead of clicking on the actual assignment, I can click on add or create. And that add or create gives me the same, a little bit more information. What I can do is I can come here and if I click file, it gives me the same options. So I click file and then I click upload by photo or upload by camera or upload by drive, completely up to them. Now, Most teachers, if not all teachers, are going to be going over these specifics with the students on day one or within that first week to make sure they're also clear. But I just wanted to give you this information as well, so that way you know how to do it in case they get into those problems. All right. So we're going to shift a little bit away from Google Classroom, and we're going to talk a little bit about Google Meet. So Google Meet is very similar to Zoom. It's a video chat-based software. So what they're going to do is they can go ahead and go over to Google, which is where we were earlier. They go ahead and they click on this waffle, this set of 3x3, and then there's going to be a little Meet icon. If they click on that Meet icon, they're going to be given this page down here where they can join or start a meeting. Now, all students are not able to actually start a meeting on their own. They're only able to join a meeting. That's one of those privacy and security things that we've added from Catskill. So they're only able to join the meeting. In order to join the meeting, they just click on the plus, and then boom, they can go ahead and enter in the meeting ID number. Now, the way the meeting ID numbers are going to work, it may be a little bit different from school to school or teacher from teacher, so definitely make sure they get clarification on this. But most teachers are doing their last name. So if I was Miss Loomis, it would be Loomis, and then P for period, and then whatever period they're in. So that way it's nice, it's straightforward, it's the same basic outline from class to class, and they don't have to memorize a bunch of random codes. So for me, McNamee, it would be McNamee P1. If we're in period 1, if we're in period 9, it's McNamee P9. Nice, basic, straightforward, the same type of format for each teacher from class to class. There's also another way to enter into a Google Meet. So back to the Google Classroom page, some teachers will activate their specific class meeting link. So all the student has to do is go to their Google Classroom page for their specific teacher, and they just click on this meeting link, and that'll automatically jump them into the Meet. Once they get jumped into the Meet, it's going to look a little something like this, and they're going to have a bunch of options. So for our students, we're asking full participation of them. So that means that they're on time to class. So that's why the schedule was important that I posted earlier. And as well, they have their video on and they're participating. So in this example, I have the video off, so you don't actually see my face. But what we would do is, get this thing out of the way. So we'll talk about this first. So up here is the little chat feature. So you can come here and you can communicate with your teacher. Down on the bottom, you see the 3 little icons. This one over here to the left is to mute. So this one on the left, I can't go to the bottom of the screen, otherwise it hides it. But those 3 little dots that are on the bottom, one of them is a mic, so that turns on and off the mic and allows the student to talk. The middle one is to end the call, so the student should not just randomly be ending the call with the class. And the one all the way on the right is for the video, to turn that on, and we want to make sure that all students have their video on and are participating. Another thing that's really beneficial, especially for students with IEPs or 504s, that turn on captions at the very bottom works the same way as a TV. You click that button, and now all of a sudden, not only is the student getting the resource of the voice of the teacher, the video of the teacher, but they have now a spot where they can read exactly what's being said. Just in case they're talking a little bit too fast, or just in case they want to go back and take a look at what the teacher actually said. So that's Google Meet. We talked about Google Meet. We talked about Google Classroom. Now we'll jump into School Tool. So School Tool, the elementary school doesn't use this. So this is only for middle school and high school. But what it is it's a software where we can enter in student grades. We can track their assignments, and we could track their participation and their attendance. So you as the parent, you can see all of that information. If you do not have access to School Tool, that's not something that I personally can do. You have to contact Miss Julie over at the registrar. Here's the full number, here's the extension, or you can contact her via email. So just reach out to her. It's a pretty simple, straightforward process. Just say, hey, this is who I am. I'm the parent of this person. I don't have access. And you'll probably go back and forth and answer a few questions. And then boom, all of a sudden you have a username and a password and you can access all of that information. So definitely make sure you have that. So School Tool is a great resource and Google Classroom is a great resource. Now, in terms of grades, I can grade things through Google Classroom. I could also grade things through School Tool. School Tool is the big grade that matters. So if you see no assignments in Google, if you see no grades in Google Classroom, that's okay. They may be automatically importing the grades over to School Tool. So School Tool is what's going to say the actual average, whether it be quarter to quarter or whether it be the full semester or the full year. So here's an example of what that may look like. So we have an example student from last year. Here's all of their classes. We can see the different categories that they have for those classes and the different assignments that they have as well. We could also see the date that they were due, what the maximum score was, and what they actually got from it. Now this little E thing here, teachers are allowed to add what's called attributes, which are just tracking things for us. So E may be they're exempt from this assignment. L may be they handed in the assignment late. It changes from teacher to teacher and we have that flexibility. So if you notice anything strange like that, that you really don't understand, please just ask. We are more than happy to answer any question that you have to the best of our abilities. We just can't answer it if we don't know you have a question. Here is another example page that we can get to. So this is more of a breakdown. So this student was absolutely exceptional in the classroom. We can see a breakdown of each one of their classes in terms of attendance and marking period score. And this is good for the parent if you really want to start getting into some analyticals. If you notice that maybe your student is failing English, but passing every other subject, maybe English, they're missing all their classes. So being able to look at this from the parent perspective as well would be beneficial for you, but it's a little bit of a next tier analyst type thing. You don't have to do this. Another popular app that parents may use is what's called the Remind app. So the Remind app is a platform that allows parents and students to easily receive information from teachers. Similar to Google Classroom, except it's directly to your phone. So it's one of those text-based services that you sign up for. So what you would do is there's a full article here, but you would take the number 81010 and you would text that number the code for the actual class. If the teacher is going to do this, they're going to give you very specific instructions to this. So don't worry about it too much. All you need to know is this is a text-based service that you can sign up for to receive additional messages from your teacher. Some will use it, some don't. I personally don't use it. I think Google Classroom is effective, but some will because they want to make sure they push out, hey, by the way, don't forget our assignment's due today. And then boom, all parents, all students receive it directly to their phone as long as they signed up for it. So I talked about a lot of different things. I just want to clarify some things. Google Docs is the same exact thing as Microsoft Word or Apple Pages. They're all word processing softwares. We use them very similar. They all serve the same function. So don't be overwhelmed that all of a sudden there's these new programs that you need to learn. Most of them are extremely similar and they run really, the transition from one to the other is pretty streamlined. In terms of spreadsheets, we have these, presentations over here, and then we have more forms. Okay, so these are just some examples of what students may be seeing. So I mentioned earlier about adding work using the camera. You could also scan work. So if I wanted to come here and take my phone and I had a piece of paper that I really just wanted to scan and automatically turn it into a PDF, I can do that without holding up this to the camera and taking the picture that way, maybe where I'm in the background or it's a little bit more blurry. So for iPhones, they could use what's called the Notes app that's automatically downloaded on all iPhones. If you go into the Notes app, there's an option where you can click Add, an insert, and then it allows you to directly take a picture of your work and it converts it to a PDF. They can save it like a normal document and submit it to the teacher using that add function that we spoke about earlier. For Androids and other phones, it takes a little bit of an extra step. There's a bunch of apps out there. The one that I personally recommend is called Genius Scan. So you download that on your phone, it walks you through a quick tutorial, and it works the same way. You take your phone camera, you hold it over the document, it automatically traces out the perimeter of the document and then converts it into a PDF. So some common technology problems, and I'm just about wrapping up. So some common technology problems that maybe you or the students end up encountering: too many tabs open. Minimize them, save them, add them as favorites if you really like them. But with all of those tabs running, it's just like your brain. If you're thinking about 30 things at once, you're not going to be able to concentrate on that one that you really want to. If they're logged into multiple Google accounts, so if multiple people share the same computer, and you're trying to access information as, let's say, student A, but you're logged in as student B, you're going to get a reject message and you're not going to be given that permission to go ahead and access that document. So just make sure you're using the proper Google account for that student. If the webcam is open in more than one program, it won't allow you to connect to that camera. So just be aware of that. Again, going back to closing out those tabs that you don't need. This is big, and I mentioned it real quick. Us as humans, moving away from the student and the teacher perspective, us as humans, we struggle asking for help with things. We may be embarrassed, we may be uncomfortable, we may not know who to ask. All it starts with saying is, I have a problem. I need a little bit of support, I need a little bit of help. This is something I've been pushing with the students, and I want to also push with you as the parents. If you're struggling at all with anything when it comes to technology, just please reach out and ask somebody at the school. If we personally can't answer it, we're at least smart enough to say, we can't answer this, but this person can. And we'll direct you to the person that can and go ahead and automatically connect you to them. So just ask for support, ask for help. Just like we're here to help the students, we're here to help you. And then one thing we're going to really push that we noticed from last semester is students should not be using their phone. One, it's an easy distraction for them to bounce from app to app and just not focus on schoolwork. Two, it's not as effective. There's a lot of things that you can do better with the computer that you can't do on your phone in terms of accessing documents, making comments, annotating things. So they should really be using their computer. If you don't have a computer at home for your child, don't worry. We are giving out Chromebooks starting next week, and Dr. Cook can talk about that a little bit more, but I believe those announcements were already put out. I think that's complete for me. I don't think that there's anything else that I have to tell you. If you have any questions, you've most likely been answering them and sending them into the chat already, but feel free to. What we're going to do is up until 7 o'clock, so we have a little bit more than 15 minutes. It'll just be a quick Q&A. Again, any question that you have is a valid question.
So to our parents, as Mr. McNamee said, we're providing Chromebooks. The Chromebook distribution schedule is on our website, but Thursday, September 10th, we're going to have an evening session, I believe, from 5:30 to 8. And Friday, September 11th, we're going to go 8 to 8. So again, that information is on our website for parents who are interested in picking up a Chromebook. So Mr. McNamee, I don't know if there's any other questions here. Are students required to use Chromebooks, or can they use their own computer?
They can use their own computer. I would really be hesitant against doing that. Some of them are a little bit better than the Chromebooks, and I understand that. The main thing is safety. So if they're using the Chromebooks, we can make sure that they're being safe online and doing things that they're supposed to be doing. If they're not on the Chromebook and they're on their personal computer, we cannot track that. We don't have the software to track that. So I would really suggest using the Chromebooks as best as possible.
So, could
With
any
sorry.
child get, go ahead, I'm sorry.
So with the Chromebooks as well, we've preloaded Google extensions that will help your child excel throughout the classroom and maybe taking notes, maybe downloading things. So using those extensions through the Chromebook may be a little bit easier than downloading every extension that we already had onto your personal computer. And then one other thing that I forgot to mention, but YouTube is an amazing resource if you have a really simple question. If I wanted to type in, how do I access Google Classroom? There is so many wonderful tutorial videos out there that can really support you through this. But of course, feel free to ask any one of us as well.
Can any child get a Chromebook? Yes. No matter how many children you have in a class, in your household, if they're a Catskill Central School District student, they're eligible to receive a Chromebook. So we have enough Chromebooks for every student in this district. Sometimes our internet turns the video off automatically in Zoom and Google Meets. Will my child be in trouble if his video is not working? I've already had Ms. Hudson fix it. My lines and new router. We have terrible service. So we are aware of that issue. I apologize, but can you repeat what dates the Chromebook? September 10th and September 11th. Again, this information is on our website. September 10th, I believe it's from 5:30 to 8 p.m. And September 11th, Friday, is from 8 to 3 p.m. So again, that information is on our website for you to take a look at. www.catskillcsd.org.
As for the comment with the video chat, like I said earlier, I understand that you already contacted them and great job for doing that, positive on your side. See if you can turn off anything that's using the Wi-Fi that maybe you're not using at the moment, and maybe that supports it a little bit better. But the biggest thing is communication. So speak to those teachers, and I'm sure they're going to come up with some type of accommodation that's meaningful and still relevant for both the teacher and the student to make sure that they can get through that, even if the Wi-Fi is the cause of their video problem. But don't just ignore it and expect us to know that the Wi-Fi is a problem and not just they're trying to hide from the video. So communication with teachers, definitely the most important part there.
I apologize, Mr. McNamee. I'm looking at the website. Chromebook distribution for Thursday, September 10th is from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And Friday, September 11th is from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. So Thursday again is from 8 to 8, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Thursday, September 10th. And on Friday, September 11th is from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. We have our own Chromebook. Is there a list somewhere for the extensions that the school is adding to the school Chromebooks?
So we do have a list. It's not published yet because it's still growing. What we can do is we can make sure that once we do have that list, we can go ahead and tell you what we recommend from the school district side. And then if you're going to go ahead and go down that route of downloading the extensions on your own, you can go ahead and do that. But at this point, it's not fully complete. And Dr. Cook, do you mind if I share the schedule in the chat?
Go right ahead. Another question. I know that you said you would rather the kids use your own Chromebook, meaning the school district's Chromebook.
Yes.
Parents purchased her son his own HP Chromebook? Can those apps you were talking about be put on his HP Chromebook?
Yes, that's what we spoke about earlier. Yeah, they could do something like that. I think with the Chrome, yeah, I'm going into specifics, but yes, they could do something like that.
Do students need to be at the pickup? No, the student does not need to be to pick up the Chromebook. The parent can easily report to the back parking lot where the high school is. We have a gymnasium entrance, and you'll see a tented area, just like we had in the spring. Just pull up to that area. We'll have a form for you to fill out. You complete the form, and at that particular point, we'll provide you with a Chromebook. If you have several students or children in your household, you will need to complete a Chromebook application for each child. So that's very important as well. Ms. Overbaugh included that information can be shared on team pages. Yes, exactly. Ms. Jones said, thank you, Ms. Jones. We got a couple more minutes. I don't see any other questions here.
So something that's really specific, I mentioned with the last name using the teacher code. We do have a few teachers in the middle school that share the same last name. So in those cases, just again, reach out to those teachers. When you do pick up the information at the material pickup, that the information is in the chat. When you come to those pickup date, you'll have the syllabus for each one of those teachers, and within that, there'll be the meeting code. If you don't get that in there, just reach out to the teacher. If you're unsure, just ask questions.
There's a comment here from a parent. My daughter has a dentist appointment. What do we do? We have 2 material pickup and Chrome pickup dates. Again, Thursday, September 10th from 8 to 8 for the Chromebooks, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and Friday, September 11th from 8 a.m. to 3. So if those days don't work, my recommendation is to contact the building principal, and we'll make sure you either get the materials and or the Chromebook provided to you. So my daughter has a dentist appointment. What do we do? Well, if your daughter has a dentist appointment, I think it's very important, just like if your child was in school, that you will email the classroom teacher and also email the principal letting he or she know that your child has a dentist appointment at a particular time, or your child will be absent from school at a particular date and time. We're treating this as if children are actually here. So that attendance piece is very, very important. They log on from period to period. So if your child's going to be taking a half day, or if your child's going to be absent a few periods, it's very important that you send an email to the principal and also to the teacher. So that way we'll make sure the information gets into the right hands. Can we revisit turning in of homework? The classwork is turned in and not complete. Where can I check to see that?
So you'd have to, this is where the little bit of the trust comes in. You'd have to go into the actual document and look to see if they've answered things. At a certain point, after you're checking that a few times, you can determine that as the parent, whether or not you're going to trust them that they turned it in. The teacher is going to turn around and we'll send out updates that say, hey, they've been missing work, and now you realize that you have to go back and check everything. There's no easy way around it. It's just like if I'm handing in my work and I say, yeah, I handed in the big project that we have, and I lie to you as my parent. But the teacher turns around and they say, hey, they're still missing the assignment. It's the same type of communication. It's the same type of double check and trust.
Even if the work is turned in, are we still able to view it?
You can still view it. So this is the weird part. You can still view it, but you can't edit it after it's been turned in. So what you need to do is if a student wanted to re-edit it after they turn it in, the same spot that there was the turn in button, there's now an unsubmit button. So they click unsubmit. They now have ownership on the document and they can make the edits and then they can turn it in. And then we get that notification as the teacher that it gets turned in. But most teachers, what they'll do is they'll recognize that there's a problem and then they'll automatically send it back to the students. So that way they automatically have permission to go ahead and edit it. Great question. Not that the others weren't.
I understand. Thank you. Okay. All right, so we don't see any additional questions here, but I just want to remind our parents that we do have 2 additional presentations, similar but different. Tomorrow, I believe we have the middle school at 6 o'clock, and Thursday we have the high school at 6. So if you have any questions between now and then, any of our presenters, whether it's Mr. McNamee, Mr. Coons, or Ms. Loomis, they can answer your questions. So again, we're gonna record this. This is being recorded. We're gonna post it on our middle school website. And all the recordings from each school will be on the individual school website to answer. When do classes start? Classes start on Monday, September 14th. This is a reminder that next Tuesday through Friday is professional development, each and every day for our teachers. If you have a child who attends any of the Questar programs, whether it's Catskill Academy, whether it's New Visions up in Albany, or whether it's the CTE programs, those students who attend those specialized programs will begin in person on September 9th. So the transportation department, I'm pretty sure they contacted you, but again, this is middle school, but you may have a high school student who attends New Vision, the CTE program over in Hudson, and or Catskill Academy. So those programs are starting in person on September 9th, but as a school district, we're starting Monday, September 14th, which will begin phase 1. Phase 1 is from September 14th until October 9th. Phase 2, when we will start the hybrid model, will begin on Tuesday, October 13th through Friday, January 29th, 2021. We anticipate bringing all students back in February, Again, there may be some parents who want their child or children to remain on remote learning. We will make those accommodations. So again, any plans that we have is contingent on the infection rate, is contingent on the governor making a decision, because any decision that he makes obviously overrides my decision as a superintendent. So although we created all these plans and although I have all these phases in place, the governor can, he has the authority to ultimately make any other type of decision. So, you listen to the news and look at Oneonta and look at some of the other colleges that have opened, high schools and schools around the country. I think this is the best phasing in process that we have. Instead of bringing students back right away, the best thing to do is bring our staff back, making sure that they're safe and in the building, and then gradually phase in our students. So that's our process, and that hasn't changed. So again, Monday, September 14th, is the first day for virtual instruction. Pickup of materials will begin September 10th and also September 11th. We encourage you to visit our website. Now, the pickup of materials is different than picking up a Chromebook. When we say materials, we mean supplies list. We mean syllabus, meaning the outline of the course for that particular class. Textbooks or scientific calculators. So pickup of materials is going to happen in the front of each building. Again, look at the website for the exact times and specific grade levels. The grade levels are different at the elementary. They have specific grade levels per day and per time. But those materials are very important that you pick up. And again, that's separate from the Chromebook. Materials are picked up in front of your school. The Chromebooks are going to be picked up on the side of the high school in the back parking lot. So please make sure that you understand the difference. Our principals are sending letters home, welcome back letters to parents. We also have parent orientations next week. Each building or each principal will facilitate an orientation. So we're trying to provide you with as much information as possible. Maybe it's too much information, but for me, it's never too much information, never too much communication. Because what we learned from March to June, although we did a pretty good job, there still were gaps in instruction or gaps in communication. So we're providing you with too much information. We apologize in advance, but we believe the more information that you have as a parent, the more informed that you can be with helping your child. In addition to that, Thursday evening at 7 o'clock, we have a social emotional virtual parent workshop. It's very important on how to communicate with your child and schedule he or she during this virtual phase. So we have 2 presenters for that, and that's going to be very helpful for you as a parent in knowing how to understand your child and deal with your child when he or she's going through different types of situations. So please look at that outline. The materials are already on our website. Take a look at it, and we encourage you to participate again Thursday at 7 p.m. Any other questions? No, we're past 7 o'clock. So again, we thank everyone for participating this evening. Feel free again to participate in our other workshops, and any other calls or any other concerns or questions, you can most certainly contact me or contact the building principal, and we will help you. Thank you so much and have a good evening. Thank you, Mr. McNamee. Great job. Job well.
Thank you. Have a great night, everyone.
Good night.